No pro player wants to be put in this situation, and no one wants to be here, but we're going to obviously try our best to avoid getting relegated.
Our team is definitely good enough where any individual player should be good enough to like overcome a challenger team.
We have to prove that we're an LCS team, and they kind of have to prove that they're a little bit better than the challenger team.
I feel like it's a good way for me to come back into the LCS where like I prove that I'm worthy of the LCS. It'd be huge for me to actually finally win and get in myself.
We are a special team. We have really big goals in our mind, even after making LCS.
I saw that Gillius talk shit about Gold Coin United and then got trashed. Seems to have a really big mouth, but can't really back it up.
Gold Coin United will be advancing to the promotion tournament, the winners of the Challenger Final.
Just relegations in general, I've actually had a decent amount of experience. I want this time to make sure that it's not even close. So I really want to make sure that we show that we're still worthy to be an LCS.
Welcome, League fans, to day one of the 2017 Summer Promotion Tournament. Spots in the North American LCS are on the line, and big names are taking the stage to fight for them. Here we have Apollo and Lyra entering the arena just a short time ago, followed by Doublelift, Florlo as well for Team Liquid, trying to claw their way back into the LCS. EUnited walking down the hallway, making their way to the stage. One of our two challenger teams, Santorin and Solo, getting set up on stage just moments ago. Big games tonight for all of these players who are hoping to keep either their LCS journeys continuing or to start new ones entirely. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, and bringing the charm to the analyst desk today is David Freak Turley. Quick, say something charming.
Charm? Are you sure?
There it is.
Charm.
That's why I keep you around, my friend, for gold like that. Let's start our day with a look at the bracket and what teams will need to do to ensure their place in the 2017 Summer Split. First on NALCS 1, Team EnVy go up against first place Gold Coin United. Then over on NALCS 2, Team Liquid faces the number 2 seed from the Challenger Series, EUnited.
Yeah, and of course the winners of today's matches will face off against one another tomorrow. The winner of that subsequent match, the one on Saturday, will go into the summer split of the LCS. The losers will also play one another on Saturday. The loser of that match will be in Challenger. And of course, the final 2 teams remaining will play off on Sunday, the 2 teams with 1-1 records, of course, and that will determine the final spot in the LCS and the final spot promoting down the Challenger.
TLDR, win 2 best-of-5 matches this weekend, and you secure a spot in the 2010 Summer Split. So that's the information you want to hold on to. This promotion tournament touts a star-studded roster of veterans. In just our Challenger teams, we have the likes of Phoenix, Fox, even Mad Life.
Mad Life in North American Challenger Series. No big deal. Of course, they won it, so no surprise here. But the thing is, they're up against some tough talent as well. Rainover, Lyra, Doublelift. Like, these are incredibly good players. And keep in mind, Doublelift has had plenty of experience playing in the promo tournament. You know, he's been there before, so I feel like he can do it again.
Right, both sides of the coin, we've got talented players. Now, despite some of the big names on the Challenger team, there's pretty much no doubt in my mind, at least, that this is the toughest road to the LCS we've had yet.
Oh, I totally agree. These are probably the best 2 bottom teams we've had in the LCS. And again, in individual skill, these teams are really, really good. So for Challenger teams to win, they're going to need to beat them, not on individual talent, but on macro game, on beating out the mid to late game weaknesses. We're going to look at Team EnVy for a second. They are the #1 team in Gold Leagues at 20. Both in total earned gold as well as the times they've been winning, and they're also the #1 team in losses.
Right.
So despite winning all the time early game, they still can't close out. And so if teams like GC or EUnited, based on when they play each other, if they can kind of make that conversion happen and stick on the mid-late game, these teams are beatable.
Best team pre-20, worst team LCS. We'll see what that combination makes for tonight in the promotion tournament. Make sure to reach out to #LOL Esports throughout the weekend, though, and tell us, who do you want to see pop off in the 2017 Summer Promotion Tournament and why? Make sure to use the hashtag hashtag NALCS.
Yeah.
I wanted to read it out entirely. We'll be sharing some of our favorites all weekend long, though. Now it's time to send it over to the casters, though, to get into the matches.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I am Optimist Tom Searfoss, and joining me for a bout in the battle arena is the king of composure himself, Mark Zimmerman.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to be here. I'm on the other side of Dash's tosses to the casters for once. It's a pretty weird feeling.
Yeah, actually, I never got a chance to talk back to Dash, too, so that feels pretty good, too. Also, you get to sit down now instead of standing.
Yeah, this is nice. I'm going to get used to these. Never going to get me out of the chairs anymore.
Well, you guys are tuning in for a clash between Team EnVy versus Gold Coin United. And while GCU come into this match against the 10th place team from the North American LCS, they are going against one of the best early game teams of their league.
Right, and a lot of that comes off the back of Lyra. He's first in first blood percentage and at gold at 15. So Lyra's kind of an early game monster. He was #1 amongst all NALCS junglers. He's kind of the linchpin that gets them all going. And if EnVy is going to be able to pull out a win here today, it'll probably be off the back of Lyra stifling Santorin.
Yeah, and if Gold Coin United want to take those leads before, well, Lyra could do it for himself, it'll be through Phoenix, who could exploit Ninja's inconsistencies in the mid lane.
Right, this could be a really bad matchup for EnVy because Phoenix is basically first in all categories in the NACS. Basically, any stat that you look at, Phoenix is #1 in it. You can see it on your screen now, just everything. So he's going to be a bit of a monster. And Ninja, while he's not the worst at laning, he has had some troubling inconsistencies where his damage per minute drops a lot in wins and losses, and same with his goal difference. And you need to consider the fact as well that EnVy generally has early game leads, and the fact that sometimes Ninja is at a gold deficit on his own, that's really scary because that means he's holding the team back further than you would normally think. So he has a tough time versus Phoenix, who has a lot of success on things like Cassiopeia and a lot of like the kind of hyper carry control mages that we're seeing become more popular. And on top of the fact, Loco Doco has had some creative drafts in the Challenger Series so far. He's done a good job exploiting the other teams that he's been playing against, and he'll be up against his former co-worker in Dylan Falco coaching EnVy. So there's that matchup to keep our eye on as well.
Yeah, and as we mentioned on the analyst test, there's a lot of experience in this matchup. We got a chance to talk to Apollo, who touched upon how he thinks his NALCS experience will play into their match today.
So Gold Coin, the team that we'll be playing versus, is kind of a pseudo LCS roster, and I do think that their players are strong and they've had a lot of time to practice, and we've also practiced versus them, so it's going to be a good matchup. But our LCS experience, I think, should pay off, and we should be able to close out like a 5-game series, no problem.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how they stack up, especially considering Apollo just mentioned they've played against them, practicing and scrimming against them already, so they may have a little bit better of a read on each other than we may think they do.
Right, you talk about them being kind of a pseudo LCS roster. Well, this season in the LCS, all the teams were stacked. You hear on the analyst test, I'm talking about how the bottom 2 teams coming from the LCS this time around are basically the best 2 teams we've ever seen. If you look at their game win percentage, not just match win percentage, it's actually really high for what we would normally see out of the 9th and 10th place teams.
And speaking of all of those stacked rosters on either side, let's jump into those starting lineups, starting on the blue side with Team EnVy. In the top lane, it's Seraph. Their jungler is Lyra. Mid lane, Ninja. Bot lane, Apollo, and support Hakuo with their coach, Dylan Falco.
And on the red side, it's Gold Coin United. In the top lane, Solo. Jungle will be Santorin. In the mid lane, Phoenix, the superstar mid laner. Bot lane is Mash, dude up with the support Madlife, and the coach, Loco Doco.
As you can see, so many big names on stage just here in the North American LCS promotion tournament, which is got to be a little bit of a shock and surprise. I mean, even just from the coaching aspect as well, we have both experienced coaches. You have Dylan Falco, who has coached at the Split. You have Loco Doco, who has so much experience with Team Liquid. This is going to be an exciting draft phase as well, considering you have the side of Gold Coin United, who have been very, very solid at going through and kind of picking what they're strong within their specific lanes. And you have EnVy, who are kind of just like a box of, well, what are they going to wind up picking?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been one of the more creative teams in the NALCS over the course of the season. Still playing that Ziggs bot lane a little bit when most people have seemed to drop it, so preparing against Team EnVy is a little different, and there we go. You see the Ziggs ban already saying, we don't want a part of that.
Yeah, I guess Gold Coin United definitely don't want to have to deal with that one, as Apollo has kind of stepped up to be one of those big focal points for the late game of EnVy that has been a little bit lacking recently. You get rid of the thing that lets them stall out to that point, and it's no surprise.
Right, and it also frees up a lot of Ninja's picks as well. He tends to be best, at least this season, on things like the Jason Talon, more AD-centric champions, and having some AP damage come in from your bot lane is huge in kind of unlocking the rest of the team comps EnVy likes to go for. So good, Gold Coin United got rid of that. We see the Renekton, Graves, and Lulu bans coming in for EnVy. A little surprising to see the Lulu ban on blue side. Looks like they have their eyes set on something else they want to first pick, so we'll have to see what they go for.
Yeah, that may wind up signaling something like the Camille that has been left open. So they've already banned away the Renekton, which is considered one of the good matchups into Camille, at least for the lane phase. Solo's shown that he's been super effective on that champion, being able to snowball advantages from his top side into the mid lane and free Phoenix up. So they ban that one away, and they take the very favorable matchup with the Camille. It's extremely difficult to pick into that champion.
And I like the the idea of what EnVy's going for here. They're picking a snowbally carry top laner against Solo, who struggled a little bit during the NACS playoffs, having some mediocre Rumble games and things like that. So I think if you're taking the Rumble Camille matchup, one that's a little bit skilly and doesn't always favor the Camille, well, you're not playing it into like the superstar top laner that you might be playing against in the NALCS, which is stacked with top lane talent.
And that was one of the matchups, I believe, that after Solo wound up winning the Rumble and Camille kind of back and forth, he mentioned to us, how did you enjoy casting the 4v4? Because
it was against Boss.
It was just split pushes back and forth, and it's not exactly what Solo likes to do. He likes to be the guy that is kind of the one-man carry show, but he's not going to wind up getting his pick quite yet. Instead, it's going to be the Ashe and the Lee Sin, which has been a very staple champion for Santorin pretty much forever.
And he has a different style of Lee Sin. It's more like the Meteor style Lee Sin, where it's a lot more about invading for vision, controlling the enemy jungler, and limiting their options while still having a fair amount for yourself, versus like the crazy Dardoch Lee Sin who's trying to kill everyone under their turrets. So Santorin generally plays that more control style, looking for vision, and he's going to be going up against Lyra's Kha'Zix, which generally a lot of people still favor in the 1v1 matchup, so he's got to be careful when he goes to invade, because Lyra, like we said, no slouch at all.
No, none whatsoever. And picking something that has the early game potential to get a lead and stay ahead and just obliterate your opponent, not any surprise to see that one. And the Varus being picked up also for Team EnVy. This is something that it fell off a little bit when we had the lethality changes. It wasn't necessarily the go-to pickup, but it is also a takeaway from Gold Coin United. That is the most successful champion MASH has played so far in the NACS.
Yeah, and I think it's a little surprised to see both bot lanes here opting for a little bit more of the utility picks. We've seen a lot of Ryze and things like Lucian, Ezreal, Caitlyn, the more lane-dominant, aggressive playmaking champions. Both teams here kind of sticking their bot laners on the ones who have the engaged tools. And Ashe is a little bit stronger now that we've seen the Blade of the Rune King build come in for her. Early game doesn't rely on quite as much, but still, like you said, a little surprising to see them opt for that one over the Varus. And then the Shen pick as well. Kind of going for that hold on to lane. You don't really beat the Camille. You're probably a little stronger through the first couple levels, but then she gets the split push advantage the later the game goes.
Right, and as you mentioned before, Solo's going to wind up playing that 4v4 split push kind of brawl style in the later stages. No way better to abuse that than have the double global pressure of the Shen pick.
Yeah, he's pretty familiar, like you said. And, all right, they play 4v4, we play 1v1, and sometimes I teleport in. So that looks a little bit like the style they're going for right now.
Yeah, and we've actually had a lot of mirrored picks on this side of the draft. So 80 carries, junglers, and their top laners being picked up. That means that there's 3 support bans coming through in the second ban phase. The Zyra surprisingly being banned away, as well as the Karma and the Thresh. And then Cassiopeia being taken away from Phoenix. You just cannot let Phoenix have Cassiopeia.
Yeah, I appreciate that ban. Smart of EnVy not give him that, especially since we've seen Ninja play the Cassiopeia a couple times around, and it has not been super impressive. So I do like the Cassiopeia takeaway there. GCU going to lock in the Nami for Mad Life. Gonna have to see what Hakuho ends up locking in. He has actually been a really good support on the side of EnVy. He's gone a little underappreciated over the course of this season. And he's going to have a pretty tough opponent in Mad Life. We'll have to see what he ends up going with, because like you said, a lot of support bans here.
Yeah, the Malzahar, the Karma, the Thresh, and the Zyra are pretty much all of his most played champions, on top of the fact that the Lulu was banned away by his own team. So many different supports being banned away. Hakuho may have to go to something that we haven't seen him play all too often for the support pickup. But they are going to wind up going with the Orianna early on here, a relatively safe lane matchup for that mid lane, and something that Ninja has seen an okay amount of success on. As you mentioned, he struggles in the early stages of the game, but picking a safe laner like that should be something to help EnVy kind of get through that point and continue to push those early game gold leads.
Yeah, and so far EnVy's kind of set themselves up for a 4-1 comp. Seraph has actually had a ton of success during his time in the Challenger Series and eventually making it to the LCS again. He was almost a little bit of a superstar during his time down there, so you see this team comp kind of going back to that 4-1 style, something that the team is comfortable playing. And we see Phoenix grabbing most likely this Vladimir. A little surprised to see it go through with no attention given to it. It's one of the strongest champions on the current patch, and Phoenix is going to get a chance to play it here in Game 1.
Yeah, I believe this may be one of the first times we wind up seeing Phoenix play that Vladimir as well. I don't think he actually was able to bust it out in the NACS at all. Of course, has only risen to power very recently as well, with the Proto Belt build potentially going for the Ignite in the mid lane, which he currently is hovering over right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case where we haven't seen out of him recently, but back in summer when there was kind of that trio between Vlad, Azir, and Ryze, he was playing all three at an extremely high level. He's always been a little divisive in the community. People either thought he was amazing, top 3, top 4 mid lane, and then other people said he was an Azir 1 trick, he wasn't that good, and I think the reality is usually somewhere in the middle. He is very strong in lane and team fighting, but he does have some team deficiencies in terms of warding and playing around junglers and stuff like that. But here on the Vladimir pick, has a lot of early defensive tools with the pool to get out of stuff, and once he gets that Proto Belt, like you said, can make a lot of plays.
He might not be the most early game effective champion, but we've seen Phoenix do some pretty nasty things in 1v2 situations. If somebody comes to try to gank his lane, he's always been the one to pretty much just turn it around.
Yeah, never back down kind of play style out of Phoenix. You come at him, you better come hard because he's going to swing right back.
That's very true. And of course, now we have to see how he's going to wind up using that Vladimir pick in the mid lane. Both of these teams kind of playing to, as you mentioned, some of their own strengths. We have the Camille for Seraph. He kind of going into the challenger scene, the promotion tournament, has kind of been known as a carry in the top lane, his own superstar style. Whereas Gold Coin United, kind of the quintessential challenger scene composition. You have pick potential, you have a jungler that can pick people out, and then you kind of have the split push potential from the Shen and the way to tunnel the Shen in with the Vladimir.
Right. Both teams have a lot of 5v5 potential and a lot of splitting, but the Camille will generally win the 1v1 the later the game goes. We'll have pressure on the Shen, and it's going to be on that Ashe arrow to really start forcing some team fights.
Well, I can't wait to see who's going to be starting what kinds of fights. We're jumping into game number 1. North American LCS promotion tournament for the summer of 2017 starts right here, right now. Envy on the blue side, Gold Coin United starting off on the opposite side in the red.
It's been a long road for Gold Coin United as well. When they started the Challenger Series off, they didn't even have Mad Life over. He eventually got his visa, was able to join up with the team, and then they were switching their AD carries around because there's Rikara on the team as well, so they were swapping between him and Mash, seeing who had better synergy, and they had a really slow start to the season before finally kind of culminating with that 3-1 victory over E United in the finals.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mismatch just in storylines too between both of these teams. Gold Coin United was kind of touted as the second coming of Cloud9 Challenger. You looked at their roster on paper, it was all these huge names and they looked amazing, but it took a very long time for them to A, come together as a team, and B, kind of identify their style. Very vision-centric, very controlling. They do wind up getting early game leads, but they don't blow them out of the water like Envy does, even though on paper, Envy wasn't the team people were expecting to be at the top of the NALCS. Some of them were even expecting to make it to the promotion tournament.
Right, and I think it actually was kind of a surprise for Envy to see their early game be this good, this dominant, and still be unable to pick up wins. So there's been some criticisms thrown at Ninja and his play on control mages. He'll have a chance to kind of prove the doubters wrong here on Orianna, and the team comp of Envy, like we said, a pretty standard team comp here.
Well, Ninja may have a little bit of weight on his shoulders as he is going up against, as you mentioned in the pregame, the #1 mid laner in pretty much every statistical category from the NACS, and he's also started with a Dark Seal on the Vladimir in the mid lane, so if things go south pretty quick, Phoenix, with his potential to blow open the map, may wind up stacking up some of those Dark Seal stacks and going all over the place with it.
Right, as much as Phoenix is kind of a player to watch for GCU, I do think the most important matchup today is probably going to be that jungle matchup. Santorin, like I said, with the Lee Sin pick, is a lot more of a control-style jungler. A lot of what he did was take the laning advantage that Phoenix's was generating and go get deep vision and let him play with space. Give him a lot of room and knowledge of where the enemy is so he can play as aggressive as Phoenix likes to play. And the problem is, when you're going up against Lyra, he's going to be there to combat you every step of the way, or if you go for an invade, go somewhere else on the map and kind of punish your team. So I don't think Santorin, he's done great in the Challenger Series, but I don't think he's gone up against this level of opponent so far.
Right, Santorin always, as you mentioned, plays a little bit more control-y style. He likes going for invades, but not to fight the enemy jungler, not to bully him out, just to basically continue to farm up to a point where he can group up with the 3 or 4 members of his team that are going to be controlling other parts of the map and just providing vision control for pretty much whoever is going to be split pushing in those situations. We haven't necessarily seen his synergy with Phoenix be a strong point that Gold Coin United specifically go to play around, but the fact of the matter is that Santorin is kind of just, well, he's been Santorin. He's been a ward that GCU uses to go wherever the opposing team is.
Yeah, it's definitely a different style of mid-jungle control than you might see out of some other teams where they use each other's advantages, but not together, where they're going for these big 2-man roams all the time. Sometimes they pull those off and go for those kind of bot dives, but a lot of the time it is, all right, Phoenix is winning mid, I'll go get him vision so we can keep doing that, or, you know, Santorin's got a control over the enemy jungler, now I can go and roam a little bit more as Phoenix, because we've seen him go into the jungle on his own and blow people up.
That's been a little bit different as to how Envy has wound up using their early game advantages. A lot of it is powered through Lyra, just basically hard carrying parts of this game, giving advantages to his laners, but his laners aren't always the ones that are able to push those sorts of early game advantages and continue into the mid to late stages of the game.
Ooh, nice trade there by Solo. Gets the taunt under the turret.
Yeah, did a little bit extra tower damage there, and Seraph on this Camille will eventually become one of those split push carry threats that if Lyra so chooses to focus on this top side of the map, Seraph's going to need to pressure those advantages to combat the double global power that Shen brings to this top lane.
And you can probably expect a fair amount of attention on that top side. Whenever you see a carry split pusher, both teams are interested in it. The team with the carry split pusher, Envy here, wants to snowball it so it can start getting map pressure on its own. The other team wants to hold it down to stop it from doing that. So you see a lot of jungle attention played around the top side whenever there's a carry pickup there.
Well, the junglers haven't shown too much attention to their lanes quite yet this game, although...
Bumped into each other in the river right there.
It's a little bit. They're putting down some vision control, and they kind of decided to turn tail and run this bottom side of the map, though. Madlife and Mash is getting a little bit of the best of Hakuo and Apollo, although Hakuo, as you mentioned, with the 5 different support bans and the Nami takeaway, has kind of been relegated to the Braum pick, which is something he's only played twice so far in this rank.
Definitely ended up on the worst end of all those support bans. The Nami, one of the strongest laners in the game generally. You pair it up against a melee support with the Braum, it's going to be a rough time for Hakuo here. The fact that they're farming equal is actually good, but you see the health advantage is slowly going worse and worse. We already see Apollo without his health potion, and Hakuo is going to be losing his soon. Gets bubbled up here.
Yep, once you put me on the Unbreakable, she'll continue to get harassed down upon here. Gold Coin United's bottom lane, a little bit of pokey, a little bit of proddy, and a bit of pressure on the bottom side of the map. One of the good things that Braum does bring to this team composition from Envy, though, is if the GCU is going to be trying to go into those 1-4 kind of, or 1-3-1 split push situations, a lot of their disengage or forms of engage are in that Nami tidal wave, and Braum's actually pretty good against that. But we're going to see
Lyra moving down here, spotted out by a ward. Also, his team is a little chunked out. It's a little hard to force whenever you don't have the pressure and health advantage because it can easily get turned around, especially if they weren't sure where Santorin was just prior to that. He just showed on the river now, so they know that he's on that bot side.
So both of these junglers, we see Santorin, when he goes to these invades, he puts down vision, he backs away, and he's got a bunch of wards on this bottom side of the map just to spot out if Lyra is going to be over there, continuing to protect both his bottom lane and, of course, his mid lane carry in Phoenix. So not necessarily a ton of action in this game, which is a little bit surprising because as we came into this one, we expected Envy to be the ones to kind of get things rolling extremely early on, but they haven't necessarily even made any proactive moves yet.
Right, but they still have that gold lead. You see almost up to a 500 gold lead, just hits 500 now. Just off the back of farming and a little bit smarter pathing by Lyra, you see the gold advantage for him already up about around 150, and as well as in the top lane and 80 carry position. So Envy getting a little bit better end of the farm, and a big thing that just happened was both top laners had to TP back into lane, and now with Sixes coming up, Shen will eventually get that kind of global advantage, and we'll see if GCU looks to force around bot lane when Ashe gets that arrow and then everyone hits 6. There's a lot of playmaking potential.
So there's definitely a lot of playmaking on the side of Gold Coin United. Although Seraph going back and picking up that Sheen for himself on that Camille means that he's going to really start putting the pressure down onto Solo. Shen, not a lot of wave clear. Camille, not necessarily the most herself. She does wind up having the sweep, but that's pretty much it. But that Sheen proc, when you wind up hitting her Q and getting that true damage proc, is a lot of damage. And we can see Seraph starting to pressure that push and move around, trying to figure out where Santorin is and making sure he's not safe in his own jungle.
It's a big thing to keep the eye on the jungler because we talk about the global advantage on the side of GCU now. By marking the jungler, you're able to figure out when he's able to make plays. And here you see Phoenix trading some damage back into 1v2. He likes trying to not just get out, wants to hit you back.
Yep, just a quick little pull and a little bit of trade of damage as Lyra hop, skips, and jumps his way through the mid lane just to say hello. But now both of the teams know where both of those junglers are. Lyra going from top side to bottom side. Santorin looking like he wound up going back after being spotted out by Seraph, and Lyra now making his way towards his bottom lane, but there are wards and pings that spotting him out.
Yeah, they did kind of spot him out, but the bot lane is a little pushed up here. Might get an angle onto Mash maybe.
Yeah, Mash is not quite level 6, so Lyra gonna jump in, force the flash out. Hakuo going to follow after. Will get bubbled up, but everything a-okay, so that is going to be a summoner spell burn bot side from Mash.
Good gank, but his bot lane has not recalled yet. They're flashing red. They're both super low. No health potions available. They got to get a reset off here, but it's really hard to force the reset. And now you see Santorin making his way down. He wants to punish these low health bars, and they have the ultimate available on Shen. Ashe just hit 6 as well. Envy has to back off this turret.
Yeah, Madlife and Mash both just hitting level 6 as Santorin comes down here. So that means, as you mentioned, Mark, they burned through the Longsword 3 health potion start already from the side of Envy. But they're actually coming back into this one. They themselves on the side of Envy are not quite level 6. They don't have their ultimates available. They get bubbled up or tidal waved or something. This could wind up going dangerous, but they will just be able to protect the tower for now.
Santorin can potentially wrap around here. We'll see if he wants to do that. Does land the Q on the Lyra. Doesn't look like he wants to take that one directly into 3 enemy members, but this is keeping the pressure up by just forcing both junglers to sit down here, get no advantages. His bot lane is slowly working this turret down. You see it's already around half health.
We actually have Phoenix moving down from the mid lane as well, but it looks like Ninja's going to be following him. So instead of going for a dive, GCU will focus on that first objective of that tower, chunking it down way below half HP. As you mentioned, crucially denying the backs here from the side of Apollo and Hakuo, just not letting them go back, not letting them heal up, and continuously pulling attention down to this bottom side of the map. They're actually deciding on the side of Envy that they're going to wind up going back, maybe sacrificing this tower, and at the same time, Santorin starting up Dragon.
Looks looks like GCU going for 2 objectives for the price of 1 here. The bot lane of EnVy finally backed off. They're going to lose the bot turret. They're going to lose this dragon as well. A really big advantage on the side of Gold Coin United, grabbing the first turret in the series.
Yeah, Mad Life sticking around. Didn't want to give all the solo gold over to Mash. Instead says, I helped you earn this one, so I get that. Meanwhile, Santorin takes the first Drake of the game, going to be a Cloud Dragon. So Gold Coin United, despite EnVy having slight farm advantages and potentially better jungle pathing, Gold Coin United with the first motions on the map, wound up taking a 1,000 gold lead.
And it's huge too, because now what they're going to be able to do is rotate their bot lane up to the top side most likely and start, you know, kind of putting their dual lane against this split pushing Camille, who doesn't really want to be in that situation. Does look like they're going to head down to the bot lane first, not going for that. Want to stabilize the lanes first. Not a bad plan, but you get to see how much gold Mad Life was sitting on. He was able to grab some extra gold, like you said, from that first turret blood. Was able to pick up his Sightstone and boots. He's going to drop a lot of vision down on the bot side of the map now.
Yeah, one of the things Gold Coin United has been the strongest at in their time in the Challenger Series has been their vision control and the combination of Mad Life and Santorin to secure that. So now that that bottom lane tower is open, they'll send Mash on that bottom side, being able to just kind of stay safe against his own tower. And we'll have to see how this jungle support synergy winds up warding up the map, and if they so choose to swap their bottom lane into the top side. You mentioned already, that's kind of been another kind of go-to move of theirs is, hey, if we can relieve pressure on that top side and give Solo a bit of a longer lane to kind of safely farm in, we'll wind up utilizing that. But it looks like both of them opting to go back onto the bottom side of the map. EnVy and their bottom lane, though, are rotating up towards the mid, but there's plenty of wards and a Scuttle Crab to spot them out doing this.
Both teams feel a little gun-shy right now. There's a lot of playmaking tools available. You have the Varus ultimate, the Ashe ultimate, the Shen ultimate, and no one's really been forcing super hard so far around. Could be a little bit of nerves, like you saw when they had them pushed in under that turret. Maybe you hit the Ashe arrow, maybe you do something to try and force that fight. Instead, they were content to just kind of slow play it. And that's GCU's style. They always go for the micro advantages. They whittle turrets down, they grind you out, they get CS leads in those kinds of ways. They don't dive turrets, they don't go crazy with their playmaking.
Yeah, on the flip side, though, for EnVy, I don't know if it's necessarily them being gun-shy as much as they are just being controlled by GCU right now. Lyra, as you mentioned just before, the highest first blood participation in the NALCS. EnVy, one of the highest gold lead teams at 20 minutes. They get these leads going. They wind up losing them in the later stages of the game, but if they don't wind up getting those leads at all, it's very difficult for them to take off, which already, you know, cresting in past the 10-minute mark, there hasn't been a first blood. The first tower has been on the opposite side. The first Drake went to GCU. EnVy are slowly losing those advantages they normally have when they actually start winning these games.
And one thing I have to say is we talked about how Hakuho had been playing pretty well over the course of the year in the NALCS. Apollo was much the same way in the second half where they started getting him on Caitlyn and things like that. He was able to get a lot of advantages in lane. Here they definitely ended up in the losing matchup in the bot lane. I feel like that's been the big problem for EnVy this time around, is that Lyra's kind of had to go down here and deal with the pressure that his bot lane is getting pushed in with, and that gave up the turret and the dragon. So we see them trying to get some vision control down here now, maybe try and make a play, but so far, like you said, Gold Coin United doing a great job controlling EnVy's early game.
Yeah, and while a lot of this focus has been on the bottom side of the map, that's very quietly just let these solo laners from the side of Gold Coin United kind of get through part of this lane phase where they struggle the most. This Shen, now hitting level 10, almost level 11 with the second level of Stand United, has completed the full Sunfire Cave. He's going to be A-okay to wind up going against this Camille in the top lane. Vladimir has already crested the double-digit level mark for himself as well, has picked up an entire Hextech Proto Belt. So some of these weaker lanes from the solo side of Gold Coin United have been a little bit mitigated just by the fact there's so much pressure on the bottom side, and Lyra hasn't been able to get anything going for a solo lane. So you see Phoenix demonstrating right there. Vladimir, Proto Belt, lots of damage.
Yep, he's going to blow that cooldown non-stop, use it for chunking him out. That is the Phoenix style, not always holding it defensively. Once again, Solo opening up on the Seraph, gets a good trade.
Yeah, so Seraph has a bit of damage for himself, but it's still not the tankiest. And that early Sunfire Cake giving armor and HP to Shen. Two things that he's going to absolutely love in this 1v1 against the Camille here. And I mean, I just mentioned that. These are advantages now in favor of Gold Coin United. They've gotten some itemization. They've been able to stabilize the weaker early game of these lanes. And they've wound up winning the bottom side of the map, too. So, I mean, the question I pose for EnVy is, you were one of the fastest teams in the NALCS. What are you doing? What are you doing right now?
Right, I mean, this is definitely not the style that we've seen out of EnVy over the course of the 9-week LCS season. You got to be a little scared, given that they seem to have struggled in the late game shot calling situations. And Gold Coin United loves to play that grindy style, make you make tough decisions, and EnVy has generally failed those kinds of tests. So they could be in a little bit of trouble, but it's only 13 minutes in. First Blood's still available. We talked about Lyra being the First Blood King. He can still get it.
He can still do it. He can still hold on to his title, but we'll have to see. He is making his way towards this top side of the map where there is a decent amount of kill potential with the Camille. The Hextech Ultimatum gets dropped down onto Solo, and he's already chunked below half HP before Lyra even comes into this one. Tries to taunt out to safety, has to try to flash away, but Sarah's going to flash after, and Mark, you predicted it. First Blood to the First Blood
I'm a
King.
genius, Tom. Good gank there by Lyra coming up through the lane, using Seraph, who has a lot of lockdown. Now they have to worry about what they might lose on the flip side of the map. GCU is postured around mid lane. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to turn anything, though.
And you see Lyra, First Blood Prince, I guess. Not.
Is that what the P stands for?
That's definitely what the P stands for. I'm a stats guy. You can trust me there.
All right, well, Tom has never told a lie either.
Nope.
It's a good kill, but not like a game-breaking kill in any way. They didn't secure any objectives off it. We'll take a look at it. It's going to start off with Seraph, like we said, having a lot of setup, able to lock Solo into the lane. And in these kind of all-in situations, that's when Camille gets really scary. And then the flash away, good attempt, but a really nice coordinated follow there by the side of EnVy.
Yeah, and that's going to be advantages gained in the top side of the map where they're going to want them to have happen. Camille, we mentioned, or Seraph in general, we mentioned, when he is in these promotion tournament situations, when he has been in the Challenger Series, he looks like one of the best top laners, like basically in the league at that point. However, you know, he still needs to kind of get over the hurdle of when he is in LCS, he doesn't necessarily have the same amount of presence. And if EnVy, with this team composition, kind of built for that split push Camille, they picked it first off, they left it open, they banned away the Lulu on their own side to try to get that pickup. And getting a, not necessarily the First Blood kill, but the First Blood assist over him and getting him some much needed gold, as now both of these teams' focuses have gone from that kill in the top lane back down to the bottom side of the map, because the next Drake that has spawned on the map has been an Infernal Dragon.
Infernal Dragon, great for both these teams. A lot of damage available to them. EnVy up has mid priority. It's a little hard for Phoenix to get involved, but he is on the flank. No great teleport wards for either team either, so it might be a little hard for EnVy to get their Camille involved, whereas the Shen can always come down on top.
Both of these teams, the Dragon had been leashed out. However, they're going to wind up turning off. The Ash Arrow lands onto Haku. He's going to get locked up. He's going to get taken down. However, in the backside, though, Solo is also already taken down Apollo. So there's two members down from EnVy. Good command. Shockwave is there from Ninja, but they got to use that one to disengage because their damage is dead.
You get to see the flank that Phoenix had, getting onto the backline of EnVy, being the Shen transportation device, gets Solo involved as well. They're able to pick up Apollo right at the start of that fight, while the rest of the team was dealing with the front line of Hakuho, really the only tanky member available for EnVy. If he's going to go down that easy, they're going to have a hard time in these team fights. A good teleport in there by Solo. That's kind of what we were saying. It's a little easier for the Shen to get involved when he has someone he can easily drop himself onto. Goldcoin United grab the second dragon of the game, as well as 2 kills.
And this is a setup of basically just a back and forth game of chicken. As soon as the teleport comes in here from the side of Seraph, though, they've already channeled the Standing Knight into Solo, and there's 2 separate sides where EnVy are both losing.
Right, they were too busy focused on disengaging away from Phoenix, but he has his Sanguine Pool available, drops down, the Shen coming in as well, protecting him, and he's able to almost kill Apollo by himself. Shen comes in, finishes him off, and then the rest of the team's busy kiting and disengaging, trying to keep Apollo alive. Hakuho left to fend for himself, as after Seraph finished TPing in, he instantly jumped onto Shen.
Yeah, and so EnVy wind up losing that fight. They lose the second dragon of the game, but the gold count's still relatively even, actually slightly in favor of Team EnVy, a couple hundred, but of course you have to count the dragon stats on the side of Goldcoin United more than making up for that one. A lot of these advantages that EnVy do have are basically on this top end jungle kind of combination of Seraph and Lyra. Seraph with a small CS advantage in that top side, of course, can be negated a little bit by the kill and the assist that Shen just got in that fight, but Lyra himself 1-0-0, the First Blood kill, and then almost a 30 CS advantage in his favor in the jungle matchup.
Taking a look at Santorin's red buff here. Looks like Santorin's going to concede this one. Does not want to fight over the red buff. Good invade by Lyra, getting these small advantages. And as much as we said, maybe EnVy is in trouble based off what was happening around the bot side of the map. GCU never did put their bot lane up to that top side to start dealing with the Camille, and as a result, they were able to find that kill. And now EnVy is in a position where the gold's mostly stabilized, and they're looking to turn another one.
Gonna hook shot down onto Solo, who's put up the taunt bill underneath the tower. The Hextech Ultimatum goes down as well, and it switches the tower angle. Actually over to Lyra. He's got to hop away from that one. He's gonna wind up coming back into the fray. Solo's taking up a lot of damage. The taunt goes down onto Seraph. They're still juggling this tower aggro. The hook shot to follow, but Solo stays alive. A 1v3 under tower, and Shen survives.
Solo's able to live through so much damage there. The all-physical damage coming in between Seraph and Lyra allows him, with those early Ninja Tabbies and Sunfire Cape, to tank so much damage. He played it extremely well too, blocking a ton of those auto attacks that come in from both Camille and Kha'Zix, and during that time, Phoenix was working away on the bot side on his own. He grabs the second, the inner turret there, second of the game for GCU.
So they trade towers on the top and bottom side, but this is, I mean, this is just impressive from Solo.
I mean, you get to see how strong Shen is. The block zone going down there. You see, it hasn't even started taking damage yet. Seraph drops turret aggro a little early there. He wasn't going to get out. It forces Lyra to jump away. He could have taken the turret for a little bit longer before using it to disengage the turret aggro. Now it goes back onto him, and he's going to drop to the turret for the most part. Shen wasn't doing a ton of damage there. If he took another turret shot or two before he jumped in, it gets a little scary because your health bar would drop down to like 300, but I don't think that they could risk playing it that way because you saw Lyra had to jump out and then was having a hard time getting back involved in the dive.
And EnVy was trying their best to juggle that tower aggro, but it was just very, very well played by Solo underneath the tower situation. Comes out alive, and as you mentioned, they get a tier 2 tower on the bottom side of the map, so that definitely gives even more advantages all across the map to Gold Coin United. Their mid lane tower has taken a little bit of punishment, though, as Apollo had been wailing away on that one, but now Gold Coin United are going to match by sticking their duo lane in the mid lane here, not letting that one go down.
I think this is such a great game for the first game of the series because it's going to really address one of the big concerns that a lot of people have about EnVy is their mid and late game decision making, and how does Gold Coin United stack up to it coming from the Challenger Series. There's always this kind of sentiment that the teams coming from the Challenger Series don't have as good a team play and those kinds of things. But when you're looking at EnVy being one of the weakest team play teams in the late game, this is such a good test and an indicator for the series of how these two teams are going to stack up when it comes to the difficult Baron baits and vision control.
And as you saw right there, at 20 minutes, both of these teams on average significantly ahead. EnVy, the most ahead in the North American LCS. Gold Coin United at 20 minutes, I believe they are the most ahead in the North American CS as well, although it doesn't feel as dominating when they do it because of the way they wind up playing the very slow, controlled style. And even just looking at this matchup right here, Gold Coin United have all these advantages all across the map, but it's still only about a 500 gold lead in their favor.
Right, and I think it just speaks to the style, like you said, of Gold Coin United, where sometimes when people are winning, they get monster leads, and then when they're losing, they have monster deficits. Gold Coin United is very stable. They don't get huge leads. They don't blow the game open necessarily. You saw that they, postured around bot lane for an extended period of time and whittled that turret down and really ground out that advantage. And that's their style. So they consistently have leads. They're just, when they have them, they're not these huge 2,000-3,000 gold leads all the time.
Yeah, and we mentioned as they were going through the playoffs, Gold Coin United kind of turned it on at the right point in time. They were splitting 1-1 a lot in the Challenger Series. Then we see Ninja having to flash away there. The Ignite not going to finish him off. Phoenix, well, doing the best thing that he does is continuously chunking out members of the opposing team and gaining advantages.
Yeah, you see Gold Coin United's 1-3-1 being a headache for EnVy right now. No one can deal with Phoenix in the side lane, and Seraph on the other side does not have a big enough advantage to really abuse the Shen. So this is really favoring Gold Coin United as this game stalls out a little bit. EnVy might be able to grab this turret in a second here, but so far Gold Coin United holding on.
Yeah, and Gold Coin United also split pushing on that top side of the map. So Phoenix, he's chunked out Ninja. He's going to get a tower for his troubles. And much like Phoenix in this game, where he's now level 14 on the Vladimir, picked up a Zanya's Hourglass, he's pretty much online. As I mentioned before, Gold Coin United, as they came into the playoffs, they're a little slow to start. It looked like they finally found their form. They won the tiebreaker match against Tempo Storm. They 3-0'd Tempo Storm in the semifinals. They 3-1'd United in the finals. Even though they were grinding out these slower but steadier advantages, they were looking more and more impressive in doing so. And we heard from Apollo just earlier on saying that this is kind of a pseudo LCS team, the way they approach the game when they wind up scrimming against EnVy and these other teams. The way they play is very reminiscent of that style. And now Gold Coin United are kind of just textbook playing the way they want to against EnVy, who is one of those LCS teams.
Hey, you talk about slow starting. For a little bit there, Gold Coin United were a little like TSM, where they were losing all their game ones. Right. They were extremely slow. They didn't look great in their first games. Like, is this really a top team as we see them open up onto Apollo here?
Yeah, just a quick little arrow there as Mash flashes after him as well, but Apollo going to get dove under the tower. Santorin picks up that kill. He's getting locked up by the command Shockwave, though, so he will trade his life for that.
Good punish by Ninja, being able to get there in time to kill Santorin, who had gone in to finish off the kill. A nice sidestep by Apollo as well to dodge out the resonating strike, forcing him to use his kick to actually get the kill. Forces him under the turret, and that's how Ninja punishes him. But yeah, like we were just saying, Gold Coin United did not look great in their game ones, and then they started ramping up as the season went on. So So a little bit of a parallel there to TSM.
Yeah, we had the story of Game 1 Goldcoin United, where basically the games would go on for 50 minutes and they'd eventually lose after having a large lead, or eventually grind it out through some sort of split push or Phoenix hard carry potential. But as the season shaped up, those Game 1s in Best of X series wound up becoming games that they were must win. And we'll have to see if they can do the same thing here against EnVy in this Best of 5 as they started up a fight on the bottom side. Solo and Phoenix already used that combination. They caught out Hako. He flashes and jumps away. Braum's going to be a little bit difficult to take down at this point in the time. However, they have chunked him out. That's basically the only front line from the side of Team EnVy. That means this Mountain Drake is there to the taking.
Right, very hard for EnVy to test that after they lost flashes on Hakuho, got chunked out. Might go for the Miracle Seal here as the Dragon resets, but doesn't look like they're going to get it. Very close with the Orianna Shockwave, but Santorin showing that he's got the Smite on lockdown.
Yeah, Santorin, we talked to him, I think it was in the semifinals when they wound up playing against Tempo Storm. They didn't have the best Dragon control, and one of the things that Santorin said early in the season, he wanted to be a leader. He wanted to work on shot calling. He wanted to prove that he was a player that was worthy of being in the LCS. And the semifinals, we kind of were like, oh man, you guys didn't get a lot of Dragons and Barons. He's like, yeah, I should work on that one. They got 3-0 right here against an LCS team.
Yeah, great start to their first promotion tournament series here. Up only 100 gold, tied up, back to 100 lead. Basically no advantage in gold, but they do have all those Dragons, a former weak point for the team. Now one of their strengths. We see Sarah going on the flank as the turret drops in the mid lane.
I call this one the zoning ultimatum as they've taken down that tower in the mid lane. They wound up following up the Chains of Corruption as well. However, EnVy going to take the objective and back away, and now they have a 500 gold lead.
Back and forth, not huge advantages for anybody, or any team in particular. There are some advantages. Obviously, Phoenix has done a great job of getting a lot of solo gold as he's the one taking down these turrets. He's getting the local gold from all of them. And with that, I like the play there by Seraph. Go in, drop your ultimate. Unfortunate that he had to really burn his flash to get out of there, but help his team secure that mid lane turret, which had been so low for so long. We saw it hovering at around a couple hundred health 5 to 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, more importantly, it's the second tower of the game for EnVy, and it is one of the mid lane towers. So that kind of opens up the map a little bit more, gives a bit of breathing room for the side of EnVy. Leo going to get spotted out with a hawk shot right here. He himself, after getting that first blood, has kind of been relatively quiet. There have been a couple of team skirmishes and fights that have happened since then, but still 1-0-0. Picked up a Black Cleaver, has the full Warrior enchantment. Had to go back here. Cannot help Ninja defend against this blue buff for Phoenix. Is going to keep poking and prodding and invading in here, and he does have Santorin on the backside. Ninja has Hakuo to help out, but it looks like it will wind up going over to Phoenix.
And just to talk a little bit about Lyra being a little quiet this game, I got to give a little credit to Lokodoka here going with the Ashe pick. We talked about how Bars was something that is generally more successful for MASH and GCU, but the Ashe pick has the extra ability of being able to track the jungler a little bit heavier in the early game. And if you're going up against a team who relies super heavily on their jungler to get leads, the most important thing you can do is make sure that you know where he is at all times. And the Ashe pick is great for that. So assuming Lokodoka was kind of planning around that with the Ashe pick, I really do like that decision as we see Goldcoin United drop their last outer turret on the side of EnVy.
Hey, who would have thought the AD carry from the bot lane, or the marksman from the bot lane that has the ability to scout vision, was going to go great with the team that is all about controlling vision on the map.
Yeah, no surprise, Goldcoin United using Ashe well here in Game 1.
EnVy, though, however, they have just lost themselves their 4th tower of the game, but the gold count doesn't necessarily reflect that. So while there is still a little bit up in the air as to who definitely has the control in a team fight, Goldcoin United definitely have the tempo across the map, just considering how much more of it they have opened up. Every single outer tower is down for them now. They've taken a bottom lane inner tower. Seraph, they're going to even up that every single outer tower by taking that bottom lane tower now. And now EnVy, they may not have had the lead that they usually have at 20 minutes, but they aren't looking bad at this point.
No, EnVy is still definitely in this game. I mean, you see a 1,000 gold lead. They still have the split push in Camille. Despite that one engage not looking great in the top side, she still has pressure over the Shen. It's not a matchup that easily swings back heavily in Shen's favor. One kill won't do that, and you see her still being able to push in the bot lane, just grab the bot outer turret there for EnVy. And as much as we talk about GCU grinding out EnVy still has the opportunity to do so as well. They have a very strong wave clear comp in the Varus and the Orianna. We talk about the Camille going to have pressure this whole time. At some point, it gets strong enough that she can start diving the turrets actually against the Shen and potentially pick up a solo kill on her own when she gets a little bit more sustained and starts picking up some armor as she starts to get tank items after her 2 damage items in the Hydra and in the Triforce there.
Yeah, so EnVy, as you mentioned, lots of wave clear on that. So even the Kha'Zix can wind up helping out with that as he's evolved his Spike Rack, his W. And meanwhile, we see Sarah continuing to dive forward down onto Solo. Gets to sweep a little bit of trade damage as well. Solo still pretty tanky in and of himself. But meanwhile, on the mid side of the map, Apollo got the Ziggs banned away from him. And as you mentioned, the Varus, no slouch for wave clear himself. EnVy going to be grouping up what looks like a little bit of an interesting 1-3-1 as the Orianna has to match against the Vladimir from Phoenix right now, because you can't just let Phoenix run away in that champion. He's going to wind up taking that top lane tower if you let him.
Right, and the weird thing is, though, that you have a Vladimir pushing around the top side. It's close to the Baron buff. He doesn't have a global ultimate available to him. But it also means that EnVy is generally still in position to contest the major objective that GCU's kind of grouped up around. You see them poking and prodding away at Vision. Both teams kind of wave clear and then dip into the top side jungle to figure out what exactly the enemy team is doing. Seraph has total control of the bot side jungle all by himself, so it's a little harder for GCU's split pusher, who has the advantage in Vladimir, to turn that into objectives and tangible leads.
Right, and the bottom side of the map, as you mentioned, definitely in favor of vision control for EnVy, whereas GCU are controlling that top side. And it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of press that advantage, but they do have multiple ways to catch people out from the side of EnVy to try to open something up. They have the Nami tidal wave, they had the Ashe Enchanted Crystal Arrow. We already see a Quicksilver Sash being picked up for Apollo to try to counteract some of that catch potential if he so happens to walk a little bit too far away from the rest of his team. But so far for now, both of these teams seem rather content to try to continue battling over this vision control, continuing to try to set themselves up, and none of them want to be the first one, not to make the first move, but to not make the first mistake pretty much.
And I think that's actually fine for GCU right now. There's another Mountain Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. They can grab that one as well. And then once you have double Mountain Dragon with an Infernal, your damage on the Baron skyrockets. And all of a sudden, EnVy has to be worried about you taking that in about an 8-second window, which is very difficult to deal with when you have to clear a minion wave and then slowly advance your vision because the other team has vision control around there. So I like the idea of Gold Coin United playing this one a little slower. Now that the Dragon's spawning, clear out this minion wave, work your way down to the Dragon, grab that one, and then use that extra true damage objectives to really start blowing this game open.
You got a Blade of the Ring King on your Ashe and a Death Cap on top of your Vladimir already, so there's a ton of damage from the side of Gold Coin United. However, they are going to be starting up on this Mountain Drake with Phoenix still pushing by himself. The Shen in the bottom lane is going to stand United in over here as Phoenix has started up a fight here between him and Solo, though they're chunking down Apollo, who has to flash over the wall. Zanya's Hourglass makes Phoenix go golden as they try to focus down on the Solo, but the Hextech ultimatum is there and Seraph shuts down Vladimir. The rest of GCU have collapsed from the bottom side of the map, though, as Seraph has to flash away. It's been a 1-for-1 trade, but it's support for Vladimir.
You gotta think, what was Phoenix doing? He tried to force a 2v4, pulled his own team off of free Dragon. It was maybe a good idea because if his team was closer, they can instantly turn and win this fight, but they were so far away trying to take that Mountain Dragon that they could not get involved in time. It still ends up only being a 1-for-1, not the end of the world, because they'll still be able to get this Mountain Dragon as well. But you see how scary Phoenix is. The fact that as terrible of a decision as that kind of looks, it still almost worked out for Gold Coin United.
Gold Coin able to take their fourth Drake of the game, the second Mountain Dragon. This is one of the things we kind of criticize Phoenix a little bit for, is the fact that sometimes just it's a little too exciting.
Yeah, flashing in 1v4 with the Shen. I mean, he has a lot of defensive tools available. You see the Zanyas, the Sanguine Pool as well now, the Shen ult as well. And with all that stuff, he lives for a really long time, still ends up going down. Finally, we see Gold Coin United collapse and get in range to kind of protect Solo, who got baited into following up on that Vladimir engage. But a little crazy by Phoenix. Definitely one of the things that he was always known for was not the kind of player to ever back down. 3 people are cutting him off from his team. I better engage on them instead of backing away while we get a free Dragon.
Hey, it works out for him in lane sometimes, able to trade pressure down in a 1v2 situation and still get himself out alive. Flashing into 4 members of the opposing team didn't work out for him there, so they do give a kill away on the side of GCU. But they have gotten, as you mentioned, that second Mountain Drake, which is going to be very, very good if they continue to bait around this Baron buff area. Solo, though, will not have his stand United up for a little bit of time, still has his teleport, whereas very importantly, Seraph does not, so they go for a repeat here with the mash arrow. They could wind up working out for them as Lyra is going to wind up going down to mash to begin with. Commander Shockwave gets flashed away by the Ashe, and Ninja's not going to have that one for now when they collapse onto the Baron.
Right, they're going to start this Baron off now that the enemy jungler is dead. There's no smite to contest. We see Solo TPing in. Seraph can't get engaged. He has to run over. Coming in now, and Phoenix going for zoning once again.
Yeah, Phoenix zoning him out the Sanguine Pool form is going to wind up going Zanya's Hourglass Golden. Meanwhile, Madlife got chunked out, but the Baron is secured there by Santorin. Phoenix extremely low, but all they have to do is disengage with a flash forward from Ninja will secure a kill here. Gold Coin United, they've lost one, but they got in the Baron, but what else are they going to lose. Seraph tries to hook shot forward. Gold Coin United will back out.
Looks like Gold Coin United going to be able to get out with just a 1-for-1 trade, but they grab the Baron as well. A little surprising of a decision to go for. They were heavily focused on finishing the Baron. Phoenix had to do a ton of zoning there. Eventually, he gets dropped down low enough that he's going to die for his efforts. And you see it's at 7,000, 6,000 health when they make the decision to hard stay on the Baron. You see MASH making no attempt to look at anything other than the Baron. They burn that one down. Phoenix this whole time tanking up the enemy team. Like we talked about, all that untargetability available to him with the Zanyas in the pool. Eventually does die, and not the worst decision once again out of Gold Coin United. It does pay off. They're going to be able to use this Baron buff now to hopefully start taking down some of these inner turrets that EnVy still have, as well as being able to get that extra gold from the Baron buff as well.
That time the Phoenix 1v4 was a good decision.
Once again, a good decision works out, but still not the cleanest play. You would have liked them to be able to, turn off the Baron and get more kills, or secure the Baron and keep everyone alive. But it's still working out for Gold Coin United, despite the 1,000 gold deficit. In terms of game circumstance, they definitely are ahead. You've seen them have vision control with their 4-man core this entire time, and Solo has been able to hold on that split push situation.
Well, speaking of vision control, an Ashe Hawkshot sails over the mid lane into the opposing jungle and does spot out Lyra in that brush. Now with that Baron buff on, as you mentioned, core group of Gold Coin United looking like they want to push down this mid lane, while Solo, now with the Stand United back available and online, will continue to split push on the bottom side of the map. Lyra looked like he might be looking for a flanker on the backside, but Phoenix is a little bit far away from his team, just hanging back far enough that Lyra did not feel safe to go in.
All right, EnVy has a lot of deep vision right now. In the river, you see there's about 4 wards down there. They had some up on the top side as well. They knew Phoenix was hovering around that area. They knew Solo's ultimate was going to be back available, basically, so they did not want to force anything. More content to just kind of wave clear out this Baron. Hopefully, Phoenix getting the push going in the top side during this time. He does not have the Baron buff available, unfortunately, so his split push a little bit weaker than what it could be.
So Phoenix, now the part of the 1-3-1 situation, whereas the rest of Gold Coin United are just kind of continuously shoving waves back against the, I guess, more superior wave clear from EnVy's composition with the Orianna and the Varus and the Kazakhs kind of grouping up in that mid lane. But Seraph himself has been quietly farming up almost 10 CS per minute this entire game. Moving up from the bottom side of the map, you mentioned EnVy has some decent vision control around this area. They've whiffed the MASH arrow. Gold Coin United knows they have to back away, though. EnVy could collapse with that down, but Phoenix, getting chunked low, does decide to flash back into this when the Hemoplague is down. Ninja's actually got him. Pop! It was like half of his HP bar.
Yeah, I thought for sure Phoenix had made a mistake there, but Phoenix showing why he's the star carry. Now Seraph wants to punish them back somehow.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Solo's used the Stand United to go in. Seraph, he has the Guardian Angel, but he will go down. Redemption's already been used, and Hakuo is the target. Seraph's going to revive, has to flash away. Lyra going to be jumping out of this fight as well, but a flash taunt forward from Solo, going to try to lock up the back line here. Seraph, though, continues to stay alive. At the same time, though, GCU will just collapse on them. 3 kills. Phoenix is split pushing the tower. Everything's coming up GCU.
Very close for EnVy to try and turn that one back around. Santorin was trying to get onto Apollo, who made the decision to actually flash aggressively back in there to trade some damage onto the back line of Gold Coin United, not actually able to finish anyone off. And Gold Coin United win that team fight, break down the first inhibitor turret. They're going to grab this inhibitor as well. 10 seconds before Ninja's up. How far are they going to try and push this?
Yeah, but they meanwhile managed to chase down that last kill. They've gotten themselves the ace. They might just be looking to go for the end right now. 5 members strong. The Baron buff's fallen off, but they got a wave of minions. One of those Nexus towers is dead already, and they have ultimates back available. Ninja's the only one up for about 10 more seconds, Mark. Gold Coin United, this is not game 1 Gold Coin United. This is new Gold Coin United game 1. They may eat that shockwave, take a lot of damage.
Not be done yet.
Yeah, the respawn timers are coming in, but that Nexus is way too low. Gold Coin United, they take game 1.
A very surprising game 1 out of Gold Coin United there. They were able to track Lyra throughout the early game. He got 1 kill, still got that first blood like we talked about, but not able to get that much more of an advantage. Eventually, Phoenix in the split pushing sidewave situation was able to get a lot of stuff for Gold Coin United, and then most importantly, that excellent dragon control that came in from them, being able to start pressuring around those neutral objectives very hard with the extra damage from the mountain and infernal dragons being what they needed to really win this game.
Yeah, and I think the most surprising thing is Gold Coin United were in control for pretty much the entire game. It may not have been 100% reflected in the gold count throughout different points in time of the game, but they controlled the tempo, they controlled the bottom side of the map. They just by controlling that bottom side, the other 2 lanes were able to just be farmed out in their favor, and it looked like they just never lost lost vision of what they wanted to do in that game.
Right. I mean, they definitely kind of left the Camille against the Shen for a long period of time, and it was a little concerning because they did get that one kill, but then after they failed that one 3-man dive on the top side, it was basically the sign that, like, okay, Solo's going to be fine in this kind of setup. Let's do the 1-3-1. Ninja cannot hold Phoenix, really. He's going to keep getting forced out of lane, and Phoenix will take turrets. That stalls the game out where they are able to keep having map control because they have the 1-3-1 advantage, and then with that, they're able to actually start getting all the dragons as well.
Yeah, and it seemed like because they had that map control, they didn't have to push sort of things forward. They didn't have to maybe force advantages or continue to like roll out something that was going on in their favor. They would just be able to react to what EnVy was trying to do proactively because they are the more aggressive team and just, like we mentioned before, controlling them and keeping them in check.
Right. I mean, we talked about this being a great kind of litmus test for how we think this series might go and how Gold Coin United is that kind of grindy style team. And they got the small advantages in the early game that stopped EnVy from getting their big advantages that they're used to getting. And with that, we saw them make better decisions over the course of the game. Some risky engages by Phoenix, but none that were a catastrophe, and his team was always there to try and follow up with him.
Right, and some of the small advantages that the side of Gold Coin United were getting were that early dragon control. They got an early Cloud Drake, and then around the second dragon, which was an Infernal Drake, they were already set up in position and able to collapse on a fight that goes in their favor.
Right, we see Gold Coin United kick this one off. Phoenix able to deliver Shen right onto Apollo. Not much you can do there as an AD carry. That's the rough life. And you see Seraph's teleport come in late. He's not actually able to get onto the back line of Gold Coin United at all. Instead, jumps onto Solo, leaving Hakuho on the front line to go down. And without having that kind of good vision to get a teleport flank off for the Camille, it's really hard to win those team fights if the enemy team is engaging on you.
Right, and Gold Coin United just kind of demonstrating not only just the fact that their vision control was great, but they knew how to play their composition around the control that they were getting. You mentioned Phoenix and Solo teaming up with the Vladimir pool and the Stan United combination in that fight. Didn't always work out in their favor. There were a couple of missed calls in the later stages of the game, but they knew how to utilize this and, more importantly, split up EnVy and divide and conquer them.
Yeah, you see Gold Coin United on your screen right now, talking with Loco Doco. I gotta say, I really did like the draft that they put together. They got the Shen pick, who's mostly there to hold on against the kind of split push style that EnVy was going for. You have the Ashe, which was a little bit of a surprise pick to see them go for, but they wanted it probably to track Lyra in the early game, which paid off. Lyra not having one of his usual performances. And then Phoenix on Vladimir, one of the strongest picks in the meta. He got him that champion as well, which you saw him basically take this game over.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, too, Phoenix had to be dealt with by somebody on the side of EnVy, and it wound up being the Orianna, which meant that the Orianna wasn't there to be part of the team fights, which wound up leading to the fact that when EnVy tried to fight Gold Coin United in the last fight of that game in Gold Coin United's jungle, they didn't have that big team fight ultimate to change things around, and they couldn't lock down the key targets in time.
Right, and it was a fight that started off, of course, with Phoenix killing Ninja under his own turret. So then when the enemy team collapses, it is still a 4v4, but the way that Gold Coin United was able to play it out was actually pretty well, because it was scary there with the Camille actually getting onto the back line of Gold Coin United.
Yeah, but there wasn't any way to actually secure them being locked down, so we can take a look at that fight. This is the last fight of the game, too, and this is like the last-ditch attempt for the side of Team EnVy. So while Phoenix is just melting Ninja here, there's no team fight ultimate, and EnVy feel like they have to get something done. They have to try to kill somebody.
And I was kind of surprised to not see Phoenix try and collapse and help his team in this team fight, but you see how nice that the Shen block zone is there. Mash did not take much damage from the Camille, and they were able to focus her down, extend it on the front line. Hakuho having a hard time getting involved, and then Solo goes on to Apollo here. He makes the, I think, correct decision to actually flash in there and try and finish off the back line, but Mash doesn't go down, and he's really the big damage threat in that team comp. So as soon as Mash is basically able to stay alive through the Camille, through the flash in by Apollo, he is able to finish off the rest of the team of Gold Coin United, and they eventually meet back up with Phoenix, who, like I said, didn't join in that team fight. He was busy split pushing on the top side. He got enough pressure down there that once his team joined up, they closed the game out.
Yeah, and that just results in them winning the game right there, because Phoenix decided that he was like, my team doesn't need me. I've already gotten rid of the Orianna ultimate. They can win this.
Yeah, it was Solo trust. That's what it was.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the way it was. I mean, we saw Solo trusting in Phoenix before, and he was going in for that flash in the 1v4 around the Baron Pit area. So Gold Coin United definitely have the team communication and synergy thing down pat a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can definitely applaud them for, because like we said, when the season started, Gold Coin United were not that impressive of a team. Mad Life was dealing with getting accustomed to living in North America. They had to figure out how their team wanted to play. We saw them playing some off-meta champions in the support position early on, but since then, they've really come together.
Yeah, it's been exciting to watch them grow throughout the course of the Challenger Series, and here they've already taken Game 1 in this best-of-5. So we are going to be headed to a break, but that was only Game 1 of our best-of-5 series. Still got potentially 4 more, Mark. When we return, we'll see if EnVy can tie the series or if GCU jumps out to a 2-game lead.